So I was writing the description to my last posting, which was actually one of my first videos, and I realized that that was the last video of me sharing exactly what happened, with total emotion and a completely unprocessed emotion. And what I attest that to is the fact that it was 4:13 in the morning, and it was the first time I felt compelled to share this, and I was filled with such a sense of urgency that I popped out of bed, and I obviously didn't do anything to get ready, but I needed to share my story, because as much as I say that there's nothing unique about me, it doesn't mean that my message isn't capable of helping somebody, and that's significant. As I was writing the description to the last, I found myself elaborating and realized that I need to make a quick video just about this. Excuse me if I cry, because those who can relate know that there is something really frightening about this, and why I feel so compelled to share this is because I'm not there anymore. It's not something that controls me anymore. It took a long time. Now I say a long time because I was completely incapacitated for 3 months. Completely incapacitated. I couldn't even be alone for a 24-hour period. So that's what is bringing me to my desire to share this. Please, again, bear with me if I get emotional. This has uncovered a lot of raw nerves, a lot of raw emotions, and because of how I've gone about the process and how I've implemented the things that I've learned, and kind of abided by a very strict code of conduct, let's say. I haven't thought about it. That strict code of conduct has a theme, which is being present, being in the moment, no anxiety attached to the future, no regret attached to the past, just being completely present and detaching from both of those. So it's a little bit difficult to look back, I found, which honestly was a little shocking. I thought that I had, healed, recovered, and that I'm stronger, and all those things are true. And it was also very scary and very painful. So specifically what I want to share is the day that I almost died. Now, I honestly feel that if PNES, psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, were seen as life-threatening, they would have more awareness. I think a lot of things were to present a certain way. If there was a celebrity that had PNES that was willing to stand up and say that, there's a lot of stigma attached to it because it's a psychological disorder, but they are very real. they're seizures. They're real seizures. I had grand mal seizures. I had a 5-day period in the hospital. I almost had, I believe it was over 30, but the number 29 keeps popping into my head. But still, 29, that's a significant number. Grand mal, full body shakes. If you're not familiar with those, just Google it. So, the day I almost died. It had been a few weeks that I had started implementing certain tools into my daily routine. One of which was meditation, and specifically at the onset when I would feel a seizure about to come on, and I became very aware of what my body was telling me. I would get this kind of an overall tingling feeling in the back of my head, and almost all the time, in addition to that, I would get a pressure on my chest. And so I could tell when one was about to happen, and it was frustrating, but I would go with it. You know, fighting it isn't going to do anything. So I went into my room, and I was already in the process of practicing meditation when this had come. So I didn't see any dangers, because I would fall to one side or the other after a seizure, because my body would go completely limp. Even though I was trapped inside, I couldn't communicate with anybody. I couldn't move my body, but I could hear everything that was going around, and my senses were so heightened that anyone would touch me and it would hurt like my bones were made of glass, and they didn't have to be moving me, they could just be touching me. But oh my gosh, if somebody actually tried to move one of my limbs, it felt like my limbs were glass and they were trying to break it off. My hearing was so heightened. So after a seizure, I would lose my ability to basically be upright, or just, I don't know how to describe it. My body would just go completely limp. And if I was sitting down, you know, like in my chair, which became my seizure chair, because it allowed me to have the best, gosh, how do you say this? The best environment for a seizure, the safest environment, which I learned through this experience. So, because of my body going limp afterwards and falling over, if I was sitting up, right, positioned pillows around me so that I'm sitting on my bed, meditating, if something were to happen, I wouldn't fall off the bed or I wouldn't hit anything. Well, that didn't work out so well. I mean, ultimately it did, because I'm recording this, but it almost didn't. So, at some point, I was able to implement enough tools and create enough of a routine that the seizures were evolving into a lesser degree. They weren't grand mal all the time as they were before. I called them episodes, and I renamed them. And so I would have episodes which were, you know, less violent, not always as long in length, sometimes longer, but the same thing would happen afterwards. I would go completely limp and have no composure. So I had an episode, and as it passed, a few minutes after, you know, I was sitting up with my back up against my bed, and, you know, I just, of course my eyes are closed, but I don't really want to do this with my eyes closed because I think I have a little post-traumatic stress from it. So my body just started to lean over, and it wasn't uncommon for me to have multiple episodes back to back. So this was one of those occasions, and I had a second episode. And again, it wasn't terrible, but I was already in that position. And when it passed, I became limp again and slumped over some more. And again, not uncommon, I had a third episode. And this is over probably an hour. And my friends who were with me, they popped in, to check on me. They couldn't see what was happening any more than I could. So after my third, I fell face first into the pillow that was on my side. He's in attention. He's just bringing some levity. You just have to laugh sometimes. So, face first into a pillow, completely paralyzed. I couldn't call for help. I couldn't move. I couldn't lift my head. I couldn't do anything. I was a prisoner in my body. And it might have been 5 minutes that passed. It seemed like an eternity. And it got harder and harder to breathe. I don't want to say accepted what was happening. I was very aware of the fact that I was about to die. And had it not been for my friends coming in at that moment, they couldn't see what was going on, but I was starting to be able to regain some ability to make sound at least. And my face was down on the pillow, my hair was covering my face, and they were just doing what we all agreed on, which was just letting it pass, because they knew the pain that it would cause if I was touched. So as compassionate and loving and gentle as they could, they moved the hair out of my face, just as a gesture. And reality set in for them too. The three of us were in quite a state of shock. And to be honest, overall it lasted for a fair amount. The rest of the evening was shot. I couldn't get out of my head. And can you imagine, well, first of all, can you imagine the thought of the dying part? I'm okay with that. don't have any qualms. I don't feel like I have any regrets about how I lived, how I would be going out. I really have done my best. And the part that I couldn't accept and that I kept playing out in my head, and this is what I was playing out in my head as my face was down on the pillow. My 2 children. Not me not seeing them again, but them losing their mom. And what that would do. I'm so grateful for my dog. So I don't know if this helps anybody. I really hope it does. I hope it reaches a lot of people, because this is a life-threatening disorder. And when I say life-threatening, I don't just mean because I almost died. I mean because you don't have a life. You lose your life because you can't live it. That's the big problem here. You know, I'm shocked to continually read and see videos and information about people who are so unaware that when they see somebody having a psychogenic non-epileptic seizure, because of whatever history they have with them, they assume that they're faking. They assume that it's for attention. And I didn't really know this, but you know, I was in the hospital for 5 days before they sent me home. Let me tell you, they sent me home in hours after they diagnosed it as PNES. Hours. My head would spin if I didn't have so many anti-seizure medications and floating around there. But there's no information out there, and I feel compassion for those people who don't know, and I really hope that there's some awareness. And I realize that if I want this to be taken seriously, if I want this to be seen with the importance that it already has, then I have to be real, and if that means crying on screen, on camera. My dog's trying to get in an innocent picture. You're funny. Can you get down now? He doesn't like me to cry. It's okay. It's okay. I gotta be real, and I have to share in hopes that somebody's gonna see this who can help bring the voice, because I'm not gonna stop. And if you ask anybody who knows me, I have a pretty loud voice and I'm pretty persistent, But we need to be united to bring this in everything in our world, to really bring attention to something we have got to be united. So everybody with psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, everybody who has family members or friends who have psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, it's your responsibility to your friends, to your family, to advocate for them. If you have psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, don't give up. I don't want to make this a really long video, so I am committed to shortening them after my second and third one. I found a method that worked, and I believe that it can be tailored to work for anybody who's committed to making it work for them. Through a trial and error process, incorporating different tools, and most importantly, erasing everything that I thought I knew, and start from ground zero. I've been seizure free. Not only have I been seizure free, but I know with confidence, I know with every fiber of my being that I will remain seizure free. This is a psychological disorder, which means that the diagnosis will always be there. And I know that I will always be seizure free if I commit to this program that I've created for myself with my 2 guardian angels. So don't give up. Let's become united. Let's advocate for ourselves. If you're watching this for somebody you love, advocate for them. I'm not just going to leave this as a blank call to action. I didn't think about what the call to action would be because I didn't know I was going to go in this direction. I just decided I was just going to be real and let it flow. But I will. The very next thing I'm going to do is I will find the appropriate call to action and I will post it, and I beseech you, please. We need to bring awareness. There's so many things that you can think of that people don't take seriously, that aren't given the credit and attention that is required and deserved, just because it's not brought to the right people's attention or by the right people. But we don't have to give up. We don't have to play by those rules. Be persistent, be loud. I'm committing to that. Don't go down without a fight.